We're talking about TUF 18. We're talking about the tryouts next week. Well, we already know that Ronda Rousey is going to be one half of the coaching duo on the upcoming season of TUF. We're about to find out who the second half will be come Saturday night. It's the second women's fight in UFC history. It's a massive fight for both fighters, and we have one of the competitors involved, another friend of the show. We've got Miesha Tate on the phone, I believe, not Skype. Miesha, are you there?
Hi, Ariel. I'm here.
Hey, how are you? I was expecting we'd see you in your bunker, your typical Skype bunker that we usually see you from.
No, not this time. I'm actually already in Vegas getting kind of acclimatized and training out here a little bit for the last, little over the last week.
Oh, wow. You've been there for a week already?
Almost. A couple days,
Now,
actually, but I'll be here all this week. Obviously, I just wanted to come out and get adjusted, and I've got so many friends out here and good places to train. I figured, why not? It's a little higher in altitude than where I was training, so I figured, head on out.
Now, before we get into the interview, let me just throw it out there. Are you still mad at me? I sense that you were pissed at me. After the interview we did at UFC 157, you thought I took your words out of context. Not impressed, impressed. I mean, we have the clip here. I don't think we need to replay it, but there seemed to be some tension. Am I wrong here or am I accurate?
We always have that love-hate relationship, don't we, Ariel?
Well, that's fine, as long as you come back and we could talk about it and not hold a grudge.
For sure, always. I'm used to it. I know how you roll.
Whoa, what's that supposed to mean?
Well, I mean, you're good at your job, you know. You gotta take whatever's said and make it more elaborate than it is.
I will admit, you never said the word not impressed, but I gave you guys the opportunity. No, you didn't say one positive thing about her. In a 140 character tweet, I took away from that you weren't impressed with her performance. Was that inaccurate?
That's not true. That's not true. No. I said actually her armbar was very impressive. I said almost annoyingly impressive. That's what I said. Impressive. Because she can keep doing it every time, even though everyone knows that she's going to do it. How can it not be impressive? However, I said that there are holes that I noticed again in her game, and it gave me confidence.
Should we look at? I really don't think you said the word impressive. Do we need to look at the clip, or should we just let it go at this point?
Go look at it. But you got to watch the whole interview.
Okay. All right. Eric, do we have the clip?
Ariel Helwani alongside the next two women in line. The women who will face each other on April 13th at the Ultimate Fighter finale. Miesha Tate, Kat Zingano. Let's start with you, Miesha. We just watched Ronda Rousey defeat Liz Carmouche. You know Ronda well. What do you think of her performance?
It's pretty much what I expected, but she did get a little sloppy there, giving her back up, which is a habit I have picked up on a little bit. And, I got her back in the first fight, and I guarantee you if I get in the second one, I'm going to rip her face off.
So you think if you were in that position, Liz's dominant position, you finish her?
100%.
Kat, what do you think of her performance?
I agree. I feel like there's a lot that you can do to deal with the things that she puts out there. It's exactly what I expected.
So correct me if I'm wrong from both of you here. You don't seem all that impressed with her performance.
It's impressive because it's the first female fight in the UFC.
That's Kat, by the way.
I'm very proud that we're all part of it. But, I think that there's a lot of holes in the game that can be filled, and there's, time will tell.
So did Liz surprise you at all? Was she tougher than you thought she would be?
I knew Liz was going to be incredibly tough, and I thought a lot of people were underestimating her, and she definitely brought some things to the table no one else has, and she really did a great job. She came out there with tenacity. She came out there with heart, and that's something that you can't account for in MMA. You know what I mean? You can say, oh, yeah, someone has a great right hand, someone has a great armbar, but you can't measure heart, and she has a lot of it, and I'm very impressed with her.
Kat, does this...
All right. That's enough of that. Then we just talk about the fight. Miesha, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Do I get an apology? You said you thought Liz was impressive. You didn't say Ronda was impressive. You said she was sloppy.
Well, that's a small little segment. I could swear at some point in that interview.
Oh, I don't want to waste your time, but trust me on this one. And I felt bad, and I rewatched it many times. You weren't impressed, and that's okay, and that's better. Look, you may get a chance to be on the Ultimate Fighter with her. Trust me, you won't be impressed with her then either.
No. Honestly, I am impressed that she can do the same thing over and over and over, but it gets irritating, and I want to put a stop to it. So, I mean, we all know Ronda's not my favorite person in the world, so, I have to give credit where credit's due. I mean, do I like her outside the cage at the end of the day? No. But, you know what I mean? She did it again. I mean, it is impressive. You can't Can't take that away from her.
Did you know when you came to the UFC, when the cat fight was first put together, did you know that this was going to be at stake, a spot coaching on The Ultimate Fighter opposite Ronda?
No, I didn't.
When did you find out?
Absolutely not. I found out about an hour before Dana announced it. He called me up and said, hey, just so you know, I'm going to announce this and don't tell anybody and watch. And I said, okay. And I said, my first question was, so coaching guys or girls? And he said, both. And I was like, what? You have to be crazy. And he said, yeah. And I was like, you better have mandatory birth control and lots of condoms available and stuff, because I have a feeling it's going to get crazy. And I said, getting knocked up isn't very good for your career as a girl. And he said, yeah, I know, it's worse than getting knocked out. And,
wow.
That was kind of it.
You want to be a part of this? This interests you?
I do. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be wild. I have a feeling it's going to kind of be like Real World meets TUF. And I don't know. I have this funny little idea or joke, actually, that all the girls are going to be like lesbians or hooking up with all the girls, and all the boys are going to go on there with false hope, thinking like, oh, we're the first guys that are going to have chicks on the show. It's going to be awesome. And then they're going to be like, no boys allowed.
I think I saw you on Twitter. You kind of asked the other female athletes out there that aren't signed in the UFC who's coming to the tryouts next Monday. Did you get any interesting names, any big names? Because I think this could be one of the best seasons yet, because they've never tapped into that division. So we could see some huge names try out possibly.
Yeah, I know Roxanne Modafferi. She's a really old school veteran. She's coming out all the way from Japan.
Yeah.
She's coming out to tryouts. We also have Juliana Pena, who is one of my main training partners for this training camp. She's here in Vegas already with me, and she's trying out. So you guys are going to be shocked by her. She's incredible, and she's crazy. Quite frankly, she's nuts. So if they want some drama and good stuff, they'll definitely put her on. Also, Jillian Lieberger. She's a twin, and identical twin, actually. I wish her sister was pro so they could both try out.
Oh, yeah.
It would be crazy to see them there, how the brother duo did on TUF 14.
Yeah.
That was kind of an interesting aspect. But, there's a lot of... Sarah Mraz is also coming out. Cheesecake. So we already said that if, she gets on and I'm the coach, she's going to be on my team, and we're going to give everyone dessert names.
Oh, beefcake, cupcake, yeah, it all works. Now, you spoke of training partners. You've been training at the Lab, which is obviously made famous by Benson Henderson, the UFC lightweight champion. How did you end up there, and is that your new home?
No, it is not my new home, but I ended up there because Benson and I are actually from the same hometown. We grew up about maybe 10 or 15 minutes away from each other, although I didn't know that until, I discovered him in MMA. But he was always inviting me down there to train, and I wanted to train somewhere that had a similar climate to Vegas. Obviously, in Washington, it's still very cold, and so I decided, a better time than now to come down and check it out. And it was a really cool experience. I definitely got a lot of great training. And the atmosphere was awesome. Obviously Ben's got a very positive outlook on everything, and he makes training there fun. So I really did enjoy it.
Honestly, did you ever catch yourself looking past Kat once this happened? The hoopla, being opposite Ronda, your rival, TUF, that great platform. Did you ever catch yourself? Wait a second, I still have to fight. I still have to do, UFC debut. A lot involved in that. Mandalay Bay. This is not just a small show at the Hard Rock or a Strikeforce show. Do you have to sort of slow your roll for a second?
No, I'm proud of myself. I felt like I did a great job keeping myself grounded, because I'm never the kind of person to get excited about something that, I know that there's something that I have to do before that. So I'm not going to be all excited about the Ultimate Fighter and excited about Ronda when I still have, a huge obstacle in my way, and that's Kat. There is no Ronda, there is no Ultimate Fighter without beating Kat. So anytime I find myself even thinking about the Ultimate Fighter, I immediately switch gears and I start picturing Kat Zingano, the fight, beating her, because that's what is the most important to me.
this is the calm before the storm. It doesn't really get all that hyped up on a Monday, but is it somewhat surreal for you? Because to me, honestly, this sort of feels like the main event on Saturday. No disrespect to Uriah and Scott, no disrespect to the TUF finale, but this has the most at stake, in my opinion, especially what's to come. You're fighting again, Mandalay Bay, Vegas, your UFC debut. You've been in this sport a long time. Does it feel surreal at this point?
A little bit it does. I'm not going to lie, because it's just like I can't believe that this is actually happening. There's a part of me that's still in a little bit of disbelief because it's been such a big dream for such a long time. But it's like, wow, it's actually here, and it's here sooner than I anticipated. And I'm really excited. And, I know that I have to make the most of it, and I'm 110% ready for that.
Are you the kind of fighter that gets nervous before fights? And if so, do you think you'll be more nervous going into this one?
I'm a pretty calm fighter, actually, before fights. I just remind myself anytime that I get nervous. I mean, I get nerves for sure. I think if I didn't get nerves, then it would mean that it didn't mean enough to me, or matter enough. But it does. I get a little bit nervous, but again, I just remind myself that I'm here to have fun, and that's really all it boils down to. At the end of the day, I want to go home with a win, but even more so, I want to go out there and lay it all on line and just have a good time. That's why I started doing this sport, was because I enjoy it, and I never want to make it into something I don't enjoy again.
By the way, wasn't Kat supposed to go train at the lab, and did you kind of like bump her out of there, or did she decide not to go and then you kind of walked in?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I wanted to go down there and train, but I hadn't solidified anything, for sure, but it had been talked about. And then all of a sudden she just showed up there and was like, when I was in Japan and with Brian, and she said, hey, I moved out here. This is where I want to train. And so John Crouch is kind of like, my hands are kind of tied. The girl's here. Obviously, she wants to train. So sorry, but she's already here. And I said, no problem. And then I came back, and we went to do UFC 157, and then she left for whatever reason. I'm not exactly sure, but she was down there for like a few days, I guess, not a real long time. She went back home to be with her family and whatnot, and the door was open, so I went down there, and it was, I don't know, kind of an advantage, I guess, on my part, because they got to see her train for those few days. And, yeah, some of her training partners, I worked with the same training partners, and I don't know, I think that's going to be a little bit of an advantage.
You mentioned Japan. You were involved in a bit of controversy over there. I don't even know if you probably know about it.
I knew that was coming. I knew it, Ariel.
Well, well, then I'm doing my job then, hopefully. You were caught, on camera. They showed you in between rounds, your boyfriend Brian's fighting, and you told him to coast going into the third, and then he loses the fight. And a lot of people said, well, what kind of advice is that? Why should a cornerman, or a cornerwoman, I should say, ever say something like that? Can you defend yourself? Why was that the right thing to say?
I agree. I have to admit, where I made a mistake for sure. It was terrible advice, and I know that. And any time I've ever watched someone corner or whatnot, if they say anything similar, I'm like, never tell a fighter that. Absolutely. And I have to take responsibility for that. I'm not a professional cornerman. I do it actually very rarely. I don't coach a lot. And when you get the heat of the moment, you have 60 seconds. Sometimes, realistically less than that. You're rushing to get in the cage, and then you got to get out of the cage. It's like you got 45 seconds to say something to calm the fighter down, or to say something, that you think's going to help them. And my thought process going into the third round was, I really felt that he won the first two rounds. But even so, I know I shouldn't have went in there and said that, but he did go in there with a pretty serious back injury. And the last couple weeks of training, there was a point where he wasn't even able to walk. And I was afraid for his conditioning. And I was like, look, I really think that you have the first two rounds in the bag. This guy is going to come out here knowing he has to finish the fight. And I believe Mizugaki's corner told him, you got to go out there and knock this kid out. You got to go out there and finish him, because it looked to everyone like he was down to, 2-1 on the scorecard. And I didn't want Brian to go out there and do anything overzealous. I didn't want him to feel pressure like, oh, he has to go out there and knock this guy out. I wanted him to be smart. And so basically saying just close to Brian is like, just relax and let it come naturally. Don't go out there and do anything stupid. And the first thing he did was go out there and freaking throw bombs. So, I mean, it's not like it really, I don't feel like he coasted that round anyways. But, he got into a good exchange, and he actually kind of got a little bit wobbled at one point, and it kind of, that's what I didn't want to happen. So that was my thought process behind it, and I wasn't the only corner person. We kind of discussed that in between the rounds, so I was just the one mic'd up, and that's just kind of where it led. So, I've apologized to Brian, and I definitely won't make that mistake again, but it's just the heat of the moment, and that's what happened.
Will you continue to corner him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this is not an indictment on your coaching skills. If you get on The Ultimate Fighter, you won't tell your fighters to coast when they may not be up.
Absolutely not. There's just more than people realize played into that, and the injury and my fear of his cardio, which is something that I shouldn't have let be a factor. You know what I mean? Was just part of my reasoning in that.
Okay, last thing before we let you go, and we do appreciate the time. I know it's a busy schedule out there in Las Vegas. We haven't talked much about Kat, the fighter, and a lot of fighters, or a lot of fans, I should say, don't know much about her. She's making her UFC debut, never fought in Strikeforce before. How are you beating her on Saturday?
Well, I think I have a lot of things that give me advantages, but I can't say that they're going to help me win the fight for sure. But I think the fact that this is going to be such an easy adjustment going into the UFC, being that I have fought for Strikeforce, I've headlined a card. I'm used to cameras. I'm used to everything, the whole system, the pictures. I know all the faces. I know Sean. I know Dana. Lorenzo. I've met them all. It's going to walk in there and feel just like a Strikeforce card to me. And also I've been to a ton of UFC events, so I know exactly how they're run, just the same as they ran Strikeforce, just a little bit bigger. That's a huge advantage. I noticed she was pretty nervous at the 157, even when we were doing the interviews together. She just seemed really didn't know what to do with herself. And so that's going to be a part of it. But really, once I get inside the cage, I think all that's going to go out the window, and I think Kat's going to fight hard, and I'm going to fight hard. And how I'm going to beat her, I believe, is just being the more mature, more seasoned fighter, making some of the smarter decisions during scrambles, because I really think we're going to have a lot of those. I know she was a very forward-style fighter. I'm a pretty forward-style fighter, and that's going to lead to an exciting fight. I really believe that we're going to have a lot of exchanges. We're going to have a lot of ups. We're going to have a lot of downs. We're going to be on the ground. We're going to be on our feet. We're going to be scrambling around. And I think being able to have more experience in those exchanges and those scrambles, ending in better positions, or being able to catch a punch or a submission off of something, I think is where my advantage is going to be.
Well, I can't wait for it. Like I said, I think it's the unofficial main event. I remember being in attendance covering your Strikeforce debut against Elena Maxwell back in 2008. Kind of cool to see you now fighting in the UFC with this big opportunity ahead of you, possibly if you beat Kat Zingano. Going to be a great fight. Looking forward to it. Always appreciate the time. And I'm happy we sort of, even though I think I won and you didn't apologize, I think we made progress here.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt. I did probably about 50 interviews down there, and I know, and at least
one of them,
a few of them, said she was impressive.
All right. Fair enough. Good luck to you, Miesha. All right. Good luck. Can't wait for it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
There she is. Miesha Tate stopping by. She faces Kat Zingano on Saturday, Mandalay Bay Event Center. They're not fighting at the Palms, the Hard Rock, those typical TUF finale venues, because Hard Rock was booked. Some band is going to be there. So now they're at the Mandalay Bay. This is a big deal.